Welcome everybody to the Hurting Humanity channel. Everything that eventually comes to pass, everything that the wicked controllers in this world unleash on us, they reveal to us ahead of time. This is a form of magic. It's also a form of what we call predictive programming, which I'll get into later in the video. And it's also a form of hypnotism. There's a reason that they show us these things in advance. And it's very fitting, and of course this is all done by design, that a movie came out in 2024 called War Game. And I've been waiting to cover this closer to the simulated fake election that's about to occur. Because the plot of the election and how they run simulations will make you go, well, that's just absolutely unbelievable that they would release a movie like that in the year 2024. So you can take a look, for starters, at the poster for the movie War Game. And of course, you can see how the logo kind of looks like that thing we were shown of that was supposed to be a virus that kind of controlled our lives a few years ago and continues to control some people's lives. And you can see how one of the soldiers out of it is being plucked out, and the hand strategically, of course, is making a 666 hand sign. For those of you that don't know, this is the 666 hand sign. It is 6 3 times over. That's what the three fingers represent. 1 6 2 6 3 6. This is a common symbol that we always see. And the plot of the film is that U.S. officials simulate a coup post a disputed election. Insurgents take capitals, questioning the president's military control. Countering disinformation is vital, highlighting bipartisan defense of democracy. Does it sound a lot like what's really very close to actually happening? Yes, it does, and it will eventually happen. Whether or not the people partake in this is something that they have to use hypnotism and mind control to get them partake in it, because usually these events that occur, the government has to initiate them. In other words, when there's riots, when there's the thing like at the Capitol building, these are all things that the government starts and creates on their own. Then citizens partake in these things. They partake in the riots, but the government are the ones who initiate it. They're the ones who put the agents on the ground to start all of these events, and then they use mind control tactics to get civilians to participate in them. And it's very interesting that they say U.S. officials simulate a coup post a disputed election, because we know that no matter what occurs here, that there's going to be a disputed election. But the word simulate's very important, because what we're seeing here is a form of magic taking place. They simulate these events before they actually happen. We all saw what happened with Event 201, right? It was a global exercise showing us exactly what ended up happening with the outbreak. And they did it months prior to it. This is interesting because this is actually in movie form, which means that they're actually bringing you into the simulation. So in other words, none of us were actually at Event 201. We weren't in Event 201. We saw footage from Event 201, but this is a different form of hypnotism being done on the audience, because they're going into a movie, looking at it as a movie, but thinking in their mind, well, this is something that could actually occur, because they're bringing attention to the government-created 6th day of January event that happened back after the last fake election. So let me play for you the trailer for this now. And obviously, anybody who's seeing this movie is thinking about all the stuff going on in the world today, and they know that. This is a form of programming. That's why we call it predictive programming.
My fellow Americans, it is undeniable that this past election was stolen. To all those members of the armed forces, join with us to defend our liberty and land.
Seated around this room is an incredible diversity of professional experience spanning the last 5 presidential administrations. Most of you have sworn under oath to defend the Constitution. What happens when those in uniform break that oath?
January 6th demonstrated a possible false sense of security.
The next insurrection could involve members of the active duty military turning their weapons around on the folks that they are there to protect. One of the recommendations was to war game what that might look like.
I am President Hotham, Chief Executive of the United States of America.
You have 6 hours to avert a civil war and ensure the peaceful transfer of power.
Mr. President, we are going to be starting the game in 3.
We are here to stress test our national security system.
1.
I want them to be prepared for the worst case scenarios.
I have no idea if at the end of this exercise, this country collapses or comes together.
Where would we like to send a large body of armed crazies?
Capitol.
You are confirming that there are National Guard that have in fact let protesters through.
I'm going to flood the zone with fake pictures, guys.
Very difficult to find out what is real and what is.
And there were actual images of that?
It is not compromising the proceedings of the election.
Yeah, it is compromising the proceedings of the election. The entire Congress is still in a bunker.
Now they're playing the game.
Everybody back to the table.
You can authorize lethal force.
Pause for just a second. Is that correct? You could have federal...
We've done it on the southwest border.
He's going to have to make a decision.
Put your f***ing cards on the table.
The United States could be on the brink of a second civil war.
Well, you've pissed off a lot of senior-ranking folks from all 5 presidential administrations.
It was my job.
Great job.
Yeah.
So obviously, 100% of the population, if they see this, they're going to think in their mind that it's a documentary. It's actually along the lines of a mockumentary. You have people pretending to be the president, pretending to be the defense secretary. You know, they're pretending to be in all these positions that are currently occupied, of course, by actual actors as well in the real world. But they're showing you the simulation and what it would look like and what these outcomes could be and what would happen if this happened and what would happen if X happened. And it's a form of training. They're taking people in to this training exercise. That's what this movie is. People are like, this is so creative. This is so, wow, what a different kind of film we're actually seeing here. We're seeing the behind the scenes of how they actually prepare and how they can actually do this stuff, but it's actually fictional because we have people playing a president and it's not the real president. This is literally as if you were being brought into a training program. This is training. That's what this is. That's a training exercise, a training video. If you were a government agent and you were hired to be a member of the CIA or the FBI, of course, you'd be making many ritual sacrifices along the way. But let's pretend like you could actually fill out an application to become a member of the government or the CIA. Let's pretend that that's the way it actually works, the way that they obviously trick people into thinking it works. You would go in and you would practice training exercises just like you saw in this movie. So there's a reason that they put that out for the population to see. They're training them. They're showing them exactly what they would show trained operatives. So what's funny about it is if you actually look into predictive programming, over the years I've always talked about predictive programming. Now you actually get a definition of predictive programming, because if you haven't noticed how this AI takeover is going, it's like everything else. It's seamless. They've just started integrating artificial intelligence into the Google search. So usually you would search something in Google, you would get all these web pages, you would decide which web page you wanted to pick. Now, of course, we know that when you search something, all the web pages that show up has nothing to do with SEO or SCM or anything like that. It has everything to do with Google placing things there, the government placing things there strategically that they want you to see versus what they don't. So in other words, if you looked up something with the weather and how the government can control it, of course, the first articles that'll come up will be one saying that it's been debunked, that it's disinformation, anything actually going into government patents will be buried, right? But it's funny that now AI is giving you an overview of predictive programming, because they used to say it wasn't even a thing, but what they're doing is they're telling you that it hasn't been proven, there's no evidence to prove that it actually is a real thing. That's what AI is telling you, right? Predictive programming is a theory that the government or other higher ups use fictional movies or books to control the masses and make them more accepting of future events. However, some say that claims of predictive programming in The Simpsons are not evidence to support this theory. That's basic mind control right there, 101, right? Using The Simpsons, dismissing it, not showing actual evidence of why people say that there's predictive programming in The Simpsons, just dismissing it without even talking about all of the things that we've all shown over the years of The Simpsons actually revealing a lot of things that end up happening. So, of course, this is AI training the audience out there who actually search to dismiss these things. Now, what's important to note about predictive programming and why people automatically dismiss that term is that they're not familiar with hypnotism and how hypnotism and hypnosis are real, right? Nobody out there is going to dispute that. Everybody's seen hypnotism perform. You've seen some show where they're going, oh, you're getting very sleepy, and the person holds the clock in front of their faces and they say, hey, you could do hypnotism to get over an addiction like smoking or something along those lines. People get out of depressions through hypnotism, right? But they don't realize that hypnotism is being used on them every time they turn on a television. Because when you're in a state of hypnosis, right, you're more open to suggestions. That's part of being in hypnosis. It can help modify or replace unconscious thoughts so you can plant seeds in people's minds. That's what happens when you're in a hypnotic state. A hypnotic state of focused attention and deep relaxation where a person is more responsive to suggestions. Very similar to what predictive programming is, right? It's a form of hypnosis. Now, when a person is in or under hypnosis, they're in a theta brainwave. A theta brainwave, okay? Now, if you look at the chart here, you'll see gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta waves. What they'll tell you is that when you're watching a movie or watching the news, you're in an alpha wave. And you'll see on the chart that alpha is right above theta. It's right above being put into hypnosis, right? But what they don't tell you is that you actually go in between alpha and theta. You go between the two when you're watching television. It depends on your state of consciousness, right? Most people actually will delve down into a delta brainwave, which means that they're pretty much completely asleep with their eyes open watching a movie. And then when that happens, when you go into, from an alpha down to a theta, down to a delta, you're susceptible to being programmed, to having thoughts planted in your mind. That's how MK Ultra works. That's how mind control works. And that's what happens when people watch the news or watch movies. That's what the television automatically does. It takes your brain out of a beta or a gamma wave thinking, right? Think about times that you actually think when you're concentrating on something, right? When they say concentrate, right? Okay, let's say you're doing a crossword puzzle or something. You're thinking, right? You're in a beta wave or a gamma, you're having gamma waves. You're thinking to yourself, okay, what is this word? This letter goes here, there, there. When you turn on the TV, you might start in a state like that, but the quicker you get into a movie or you get into the news, you're automatically having your brain waves lowered without you realizing it. Of course, the common person thinks while they're watching this stuff that they're paying attention, but they're not. This is automatic. This isn't something that people actually are aware of. Now, if you watch the news like I do, where you turn it on and you're critically thinking before you even turn it on and you're watching it so you can figure out what they're trying to tell you, then you will not sink down into those levels. Now, does that mean at times where I watch a movie which I don't watch many, but if I'm watching a movie and it's not to make a video about it, can I be brought down into a theta or delta wave? Yes, I can. Yes, I can be brought down. And when we all can be, if we're not actually watching things to think. And how many people go into a movie watching it going, I'm going to go into this movie and I'm going to really be thinking the entire time. Nobody goes to the movie to think. You go to the movie to relax, right? That's what we all hear. Oh, you're going to the movies because you want to relax. You're going to the movies because you want to unwind. You want to get out, you need a break from everything going on around you because it puts you in a state of hypnosis. And then what they do in that state is they program you. They plant seeds. They tell you things that you should do, ways you should dress. They manipulate you every which way possible that they can, which is why a lot of these communist themes are integrated in every movie. That's why they call it, in our society now, they call it these woke ideologies, right? And you hear the alt-right constantly complain. They're like, oh man, this movie's woke, this movie's woke, this movie's woke. Woke's broke, it's garbage, it's trash. But they do it deliberately because they know the majority of people who do go and see it, that they're going to be able to program them because it's automatic. It's not a choice for the people who are watching it. Most people now will refuse to go see it ahead of time based on knowing that it's quote unquote woke garbage, but it's communist propaganda. And they use the television to program people, which is how we've gotten into the world that we're in now, is through all of this deceptive, manipulative programming that's going on. So television puts you in a hypnotic state. So when you see a trailer like that, when you know about this election that's coming up, which again is not a real election, that right there is the equivalent of watching a training video. That's the equivalent of. They're training people out there. They're training people to accept what's coming, to be prepared for it to come, without them snapping out of it. Because if anybody, was paying attention, they say, whoa, we got to prevent this from happening. What are we doing? Why are we fighting with our neighbor because they have a Biden banner, or a Kamala banner, or a Trump banner over that? We're all humans. We're all named. They don't want you to come out of the brainwave that you're in, which is literally a delta brainwave. They'll tell you it's a theta, but people are dead asleep, as we can see. Now, if you come out of that and you start critically thinking, you start questioning the news and all this other stuff, then you awaken from it, but they don't want you to. So they're training everybody out there into accepting what's about to happen. They're training everybody out there into when a civil war breaks out, which again, it's not going to be like people running in the streets armed against each other like what we've seen in the history books, which aren't real anyway, about how civil wars took place. It's going to be a lot different than that. It's going to be separation in society is what it's going to be. Separation between blue and red states. And they use things in the video. They're like, in the trailer, it could be a prequel to Alex Garland's Civil War, right? Yeah, it could be a prequel because that's what the plan is, and that's what the plan has been for a while. So you pretty much just saw, just like an Event 201, you saw a training exercise performed on the masses. So it's more than just predictive programming. It's a form of hypnotism. That's what my point of this video is that people need to realize that predictive programming is a form of hypnosis. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we're getting closer and closer and closer and closer to all this stuff going down. And it's going to go down the way that they have planned. And they'll start by creating their own false flags, which means that it won't be some naturally occurring event. They'll have stage actors who go to a building, whether it's a government building or wherever in a city. They'll cause chaos. They'll then start, rallying people in, drawing civilians in, which is exactly what they did on the 6th day of January. That's how trained government operations work, and there's big ones coming, and they're telling you. They ain't hiding it anymore. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.